We're speaking today with Karen Rightmire, president of the Wyomissing Foundation. Karen, thank you for taking time today.
My pleasure.
In the materials that you sent me, you discussed that there were 3 areas that the foundation is currently focusing on. Talk about those areas and specifically what's happening now.
Let me start by saying this is a small foundation. Many of the local foundations are relatively small. It's a private foundation funded through the philanthropy of Ferdinand and Anna Toon. And since we're small, we began to think about what could we do to make an impact in the community with the $1,300,000 to $1,500,000 that we distribute on a yearly basis. So we went through a long process with some consultants from Fels Institute who helped us determine through a series of interviews in this process that making an impact on economic development in the core of the community would be the best use of our dollars. And so to that end, we retained these consultants. We began to do another process about where and how could we do this. And through that, in many interviews with lots of other people, we came to the conclusion that there were 3 particular areas in our community that we could work with using our dollars to leverage other dollars that would make, we hope, a significant difference.
And those 3 areas are?
The 3 areas are West Reading, the Gateway area, which is RAC, and the Entertainment Square, and also what we call the Village of College Heights, but it's the Hampton Heights and College Heights area around Albright.
And what do you hope to accomplish in each of those areas?
Well, there were several premises that were set that we adhere to. What we had to do had to be compact geographically. It had to be able to have success in 1 to 3 years, and it had to be sustainable. Those were the 3 rules that the consultant said we should follow.
And what constitutes success?
Well, success would be different in each of those 3 areas. The first thing, what we've done, and let me tell you a little bit about how we started to do this. What we've done is we created task forces in each of the 3 areas, made up of people who had resources, who could make decisions together that could impact the area significantly. And what we did then is we got each of these groups together and said, where do your interests intersect with our interests? What do all of us think is the most important thing we could accomplish here? And so we didn't set the goals for success. Each task force set the goals for success. And so in West Reading, we began to help fund the Elm Street director, because he was losing funding for his position. And Elm Street, I don't want to go way off on this, but Elm Street is the program that supports Main Street, and they're state and federally funded.
It's intended to support small businesses in a particular.
That's the Main Street, and the Elm Street piece of it's intended to enhance the neighborhoods around the Main Street. So we began to fund the Main Street director so he could do his job, and he's been highly successful. We've brought Reading Hospital as part of this group, and they've offered amazing resources. They're offering assistance to their employees to purchase homes in this target area. Dean Rohrbach, who is the Elm Street director, has pulled in hundreds of thousands of state and federal dollars to the neighborhoods. We, along with the Wyomissing Foundation, put together a pool of money and worked with this bank so that they could have a line of credit, and this Elm Street project could purchase homes that were being bought by investors and turned into multifamily homes.
Well, to try and stop that.
To try and stop that and put them back into single-family homes. And so, the projects get really complicated for each of them. But, to give you another example, in the Gateway area, there are 2 facets of the project we're working on. The one is Entertainment Square, has a major highway running through it, and it's pretty hard to cross the street. It doesn't feel like a square. So we paid for drawings of the pedestrian crossways with coming up with ideas on how to calm the traffic and put planters and benches and whatever up there. Incidentally and coincidentally, another group did the same thing. So we need to collaborate with them, which is what it's all about, and see if we can't do something in that side of Entertainment Square. On the RAC side of Entertainment Square, we made a $200,000 grant to RAC to establish a pilot project to help young people who are coming out of high school who don't pass acceptance tests to even go into training, to get them from that point to be eligible for training programs.
You were talking about what was happening in the Gateway area on the RAC side.
Yeah.
Let's move up to Albright.
Mm-hmm.
What's the benefit to the city of of your support for improving that part of Reading.
Okay. Understand that Albright isn't the focus of our efforts. The focus of our efforts is the area around the college. Part of the philosophy that we're working on here is starting from strength and moving out, as opposed to starting in the most difficult areas and trying to solve those problems. That's a switch in philosophy, but it's a very current way of thinking about things. Albright, the College Heights area and Hampton Heights area, we call it the Village of College Heights. I didn't make that up, our consultant did. Anyway, the Village of College Heights area is one of the highest tax-paying areas in the city of Reading. That is the one area where there are bigger homes and more middle-class people.
It's a solid residential base.
A solid residential base. And that is starting to decline. And one of the thoughts is, how do we preserve that residential base? How do we entice young people who are just making it in the city to move up to that area instead of moving out to the city? And so what we thought was, with some amenities in the area, we might be able to make an impact. One of the things that we hope to do, and we just made a grant to Albright College, is to work on making the 13th and Union a lab school, if you will. Now, people would like to move in a neighborhood where their children are being educated in, the school of the future. So that is something that we think...
Where there's a high-quality community school.
Absolutely, where there's a high-quality community school. The other thing that we're doing is looking at the Rockland Street, the streetscapes, the area around the shopping center, and saying, is there a way to bring a decent restaurant there? There's no restaurants to eat in hardly in that particular area of town. What other amenities could be brought? We're not paying for that, by the way. We're paying for architectural drawings that would show what it could be, what the streetscape could look like.
Then it's up to somebody else to start selling and bringing people in.
We're trying to use our money to get the ball rolling, to incent other people to invest.
In all of this, it seems like some people might say, why not address the core of Reading where poverty is the worst? Well, what's your answer to those people?
We have done it both ways. There are two ways to do this. One is to go into the densest, the poorest area, and the other one is to go into areas of strength and move into the areas that are poor. We have had, and most people have had, much greater success starting from strength and working our way into the poorest areas than spending a lot of time and resources in those poor areas. United Way, we did both. And when you spend a lot of time and resources in the poorest of areas, you deal with a lot of people who move out as soon as they can. It's not a place that a lot of people want to stay. And so you're constantly starting over and over and over again with brand new people. But if you begin to go to areas that have some strength but are beginning to transition into poorer areas, you have a base to begin with and you can build on that base. And that's the philosophy behind our thinking.
Karen, we'll let that be the last word on this. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.